What's up, Goth Gamer Nation and Goth Hunters? And welcome to Darkened Streams, which has nothing to do with streaming like on Twitch. I've noticed comments to the effect of, I didn't watch these because I thought they were Twitch streams or something. So not that you are now watching it, but in case you're giving it a try now, that's not what this is. It's Darkened Streams, the show where I talk about piss, and I create a guide, an analysis, and a review on every one of the 327 episodes of the CW program Supernatural, or however many YouTube allows before shutting me down. What did we learn in the last episode? If you have a hunting partner, you're stronger together. Even though Dean seemed perfectly capable of tracking, researching, and hunting down a pagan god without Sam's help, save for the moment he was tied up with thin twine that he couldn't have known was his only weakness. If your paramour was set on fire by a demon, get back out there. You never know, you might meet a demon who could have ties to the other demon that was responsible for that person's murder. Also, sometimes you're gonna get the episode numbers wrong because you temporarily have misplaced confidence in your ability to remember numbers, even though you failed many math classes. Maybe that's a little overly specific. Season 1, episode 12, entitled Faith. 12. Scarecrow is 11. 12. This episode is written by Sarah Gamble and Riley Tucker. There are 4 episodes in season 1, with these two credited as a writing team. Gamble, of course, would go on to become a showrunner, and Tucker would stay on until season 2 before leaving to write for True Blood. Previously, they wrote episode 3, Dead in the Water, which was not the best episode, but we can count that as a warm-up, and hopefully they'll fare better with this one. If there's one thing I feel during season 1, it's optimism. There's safety in it. I know the worst is far down the road and I can take it easy for a little while. Faith was directed by first-time, last-time crew member Alan Croker, who had previously worked on many a Star Trek program, as well as several short-lived cult hits like Roswell, Dark Angel, and Firefly. According to IMDb trivia, series creator Eric Kripke was quoted saying this was his favorite episode of season 1, though IMDb is often filled with a lot of clearly inaccurate bits of trivia, so who knows. There's an entry here that says that because of this line,
"Oh, just yesterday, a young guy like you, 27, athletic, out of nowhere, heart attack."
It's meant to imply that Dean is 27 years old, even though in the first episode he says,
I'm 26, dude.
I guess he could have had a birthday in the last 6 months, but also, who gives a fuck? The opening of Faith has always intrigued me. It's one of few early episodes with a cold open that features Sam and Dean in medias res, but it's doubly interesting because they are hunting a creature that only appears in this one episode called a rawhead, and it's like a goofy ghouly monster that kidnaps and eats children. Like, why waste this to open an episode? I want to see the rest of this hunt. You can't just tell me there's a race of monsters that specifically eats kids and then never talk about it until 14 years later when you show a tooth of one. This is your A story. That's the show. That's the show. Also, does this have any relation to Rawhead Rex? Is this a crossover? Is someone getting pissed on today? Apparently the way you kill a rawhead is with electricity. Again, like, what the fuck, dude? This is like the only thing you kill with something other than a certain type of metal, and we're breezing right past it. Anyway, Dean tases the rawhead with the super taser from Condemned after falling in a puddle of water, so he receives a near-fatal shock that kills the rawhead but triggers a heart attack. This episode is the first to touch on one of the principal themes and tropes of this series. Countless times throughout all 15 years of Supernatural, the boys find themselves in these almost exact circumstances. You could say Faith captures and distills this idea into a single episode, long before they spend whole seasons doing things like this. One of them, Dean in this case, is destined to die. Today it's because of an injury sustained during a hunt, but later on it will be all manner of complex situations that would be gibberish without context. Now obviously, even if you're not a fan of the show and you're not familiar with its lore and mythology, it would be weird if one of these dummies died in season 1. I'm pretty sure I would have heard about that part. They're on the box art for every season on DVD, so I'm pretty confident plot armor will see them through this. So the other brother, Sam, vows to find some means of saving the other, regardless of consequence, and there's always a consequence.
I'm gonna die. And you can't stop it. Watch me.
Thankfully, we're in season 1, so this still has charm to it. Sam tries to track down some supernatural means of saving Dean. Calling their father to, of course, no response, someone actually helpful tips him off to a specialist in Nebraska. A specialist that is revealed to be a faith healer named Roy LaGrange. Wait, what the fuck? That's Agent Fuller. You remember him. He was another FBI guy. And then he suffered some kind of head injury, I guess, and became a dude that studies dark matter and gives Tony Shalhoub the power to kill people with his shadow. And then he must have remembered that he was Agent Fuller again. It's good to have you back. Oh, bye. See you later. I find the whole concept they're using here very interesting for a couple reasons. Within the show, the supernatural does exist. Sam and Dean have in half a season, and a lifetime off screen, hunted and killed a whole menagerie of actual real creatures and ghosts. They've seen them with their eyes, but when they get to the faith healer's tent, Dean refuses to put any credence in this idea, likening the faith healer to a snake oil salesman, cheating the ignorant out of their money, which is a very logical read on this sort of thing, but odd in context. This is the first indication that Sam is somewhat spiritual, at least more so than Dean, retorting that if they've confirmed that there are forces of evil in the world, that there in turn must be good as well. And not to jump years ahead into the show's greater lore, but I think seasons 1 to 5 operate with a different, more cynical take on Judeo-Christian mythology. That was always something I appreciated about the first era. It tread into sappy religious material with a surprisingly dark, grounded interpretation. I do feel like this changes slightly once its showrunners are replaced, but for the time being, I get a kick out of this still being a discussion or a debate within the show. It's still small, there's still so much they don't know. The events down the line pit them face to face with a lot of things that for now are just conjecture, they're just ethereal thoughts. Outside the tent, they meet a woman named Layla, played by Julie Benz, who was coincidentally part of the cast of Roswell, but likely more recognizable to CW heads as Darla from the Buffy Angel universe, and responsible for one of the most deranged moments in said universe.
You sure want to play the good guy, don't you? Yeah, you're the good guy who did this to me.
Layla's mother was played by Gillian Barber, who was in 4 episodes of X-Files. A 4-timer, what a treat. One of these was the episode Red Museum, which similarly dealt with a strange religious organization, though in that one they turn out to be people injected with alien DNA who all decide to dress like Toad. Decent ep. Dean interrupts LaGrange's sermon, but is invited on stage to be healed, and despite his constant objections, the healer lays his hands on Dean, who passes out, seeing a dark figure behind Roy. Afterwards, Dean seems to be the picture of health, but unlike Sam, is not celebrating that fact, claiming that the whole process felt wrong, and that it shouldn't have happened. Consumed with skepticism, Dean goes back to the tent to speak with Roy and his wife. He claims that after a cancer diagnosis, losing his eyes and going into a coma, he woke up with the ability to heal, and he chose Dean to heal because he felt he still had a great purpose. As he leaves, he bumps into Layla again, who apparently shows up frequently in hopes of having her inoperable brain tumor healed.
Why do you deserve to live more than my daughter?
Because he's gonna save the world later, you fuck. What's she gonna do? Marry a serial killer? Watch how that plays out. Sam notices a pattern of deaths every time Roy claims to heal someone. They conclude that Dean and all the others are not being healed, but their lives are being traded for others. Clearly distraught that someone died in his place, Dean claims that there is only one thing that could do this, and it's not Roy, it's a Reaper. A neutral servant of death that exists to blindly instill balance on Earth. Somehow Roy has figured out how to control or use a Reaper to appear as a healer. They spared no expense using the exact song you'd think they'd use. Also, if you thought Layla's mom was impressive, this guy has 5 X-Files credits, including the very memorable episode in Season 3 titled Jose Chung's From Outer Space, which without saying any more featured this scene.
Jack, what is that thing?
How the hell should I know?
Why does he just sound exactly like I thought he would sound?
You are feeling very sleepy, very relaxed.
Sam breaks into Roy's home and finds a series of newspaper clippings concerning all of the victims, and they are all clearly people who would be seen as immoral to an extremist Christian cult. And the next will probably be the journalist protesting the tent outside. It's really surreal seeing the show, state an opinion on anything. You'd think a show that includes things like angels and demons and ghosts would be for people with banana brains, but the people with banana brains are the bad guys in the show.
And God save us from half the people who think they're doing God's work.
Sam tells Dean to interrupt the next healing, which unfortunately would be Layla's healing, which is sad because she seems nice, I guess, and Dean wants to kiss. Unable to convince her not to, Dean just yells fire and everyone starts clearing out of the tent. This, however, does not appear to stop the Reaper from draining the life of the protester. Roy's wife, Sue Ann, stayed in the tent and is praying rapidly to a Coptic cross, like the one seen in a pack of tarot cards Sam had for some reason. I'm surprised Sam doesn't bring up crystals more often. Dean, you gotta align your chakras! He gets tossed out when Sue Ann screams, but when she stops praying, the Reaper releases the potential victim. Layla really doesn't want that kiss now, but the Lagranges agree to a private healing for her. Sam explains that Sue Ann was using an ancient binding spell to keep the Reaper under her control, something she probably did out of desperation when her husband was on death's door, but that she's now taken too far to enact her own twisted version of justice. The boys show up in the world's loudest car for their stealth mission to stop the healing. There's an added layer of depth to this story that doesn't happen as often as I'd like. It's for the best that they stop Sue Ann and the Reaper, but doing that will doom Layla to death, which they acknowledge as being pretty hypocritical after allowing someone to die in Dean's place. It's nice seeing them conflicted about their job. Things can't always be shoot the monster and go eat pizza, even though we'd like it to be. Sam thinks either the cross Sue Ann prays to needs to be destroyed or the altar she used to perform the binding spell. Literally, like, the only issue I have with this episode is the editing of this sequence, because it happens really quickly and is so inert. There's just no energy to what should be an exciting conclusion. Dean's getting killed by a Reaper, and Layla's getting healed, and Sam's trying to stop Sue Ann, but the music they chose for this was like a soft, jazzy, gospel piano number. And it's just too quiet. It's like either use nothing or something louder. I feel like they were attempting to pair this music with this scene to create like a subversion of tone, but it just feels weird. And then Sam just kind of walks up to Sue Ann and smashes her cross. It is redeemed by the Reaper then killing Sue Ann, as he was all jacked up to kill something anyway. Later, Sam tries to convince Dean that they did the right thing, calling Layla to come talk to him before they leave town. He, of course, apologizes while skirting around the details of what happened, but Layla has faith that she'll be saved in some other sense. Dean admits that he's not a religious person, but he'll pray for her anyway. It's really fucking cheesy, but I'm not immune to that, okay? I think it works and winds up being really sweet. I feel like in any other episode, Dean would try to kiss the lady, but he respectfully just says goodbye. It's nice when they show restraint in the show and don't make Dean do the whole, yeah, I know you're gonna die because of me, but can I go a little kiss whole mama? There's something almost, I want to say, adult about this episode. It seems to want to touch on certain topics and play with certain themes that I feel like they usually wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Even though there is a supernatural being killing people in this episode, the villain was a fundy, and aside from the first 5 minutes, it's got a real atmosphere to it. They take their time with certain shots instead of racing to the finish line, even if they limp a little before reaching it. And we got there with next to no X-Files experience. I mean, in like the production crew, not on screen. They're filming in Canada, it would be impossible not to. This is one of the good ones though. Also, get used to seeing Reapers around, but like a lot of things, don't get used to them having consistent lore. There is a cruelty to how big and lore-heavy Supernatural is, but how inconsistent and changeable it can be. Or is that fun? I can't tell. If it is fun, did they mean for it to be fun? It's like how later on they say you can't kill witches until Sam invents witch-killing bullets.
A gun? You really think that's gonna work on it?
Well, I bet you she can work in some mysterious ways.
Look, Dean, do we really have to look this one in the mouth? Why can't we just be thankful that the guy saved your life and move on?
What'd you find out?
I'm sorry.
You actually watch daytime TV? It's terrible.
am I doing?